Okay, today's Q&A is about packaging. And the question is, do hashgachas pay any attention to the packaging that the food comes in? So, as a rule, the paper and plastic and other types of materials that the food is packaged in is inedible and doesn't have any traditional kashrus concerns in it. Once in a while, there'll be an edible coating on the inside of the package, but that's rather uncommon. But there are some other ways that the packaging could be problematic for kosher consumers, and that is something that hashgachas pay attention to, and I'm going to give you some examples. So the first is that some companies will, for one reason or another, decide to put a pasuk from the Torah onto their package, Hebrew or English, and those are potentially shemus. Now, shemus is something that requires special care, how you take care of it. So it doesn't seem appropriate to give a package to people, to the public at large, many of whom have no idea what they're supposed to do, or won't even realize they're supposed to treat it properly. And therefore, the hashgacha would not want that to be on their package. But other times, the package just has some information, like it says the bracha. It tells that this is, okay to use this product for kiddush, or that it meets some kind of standard, like it's yashar or pas yisrael or chalav yisrael or something like that. So that's, most people do not consider that to be shemus and don't have any problem with that being on the package, on the label. Another type of concern on a package is when it has images that don't conform with our standard of tznius, or references some kind of the practices of some religion, not appropriate for a Jewish home. So these ideas are what's too objectionable to be on a package of kosher food is a very subjective decision. It very much depends on the Rav Machshir's general approach and the sensitivity of the community who they're serving. So these are very subjective decisions about what is or is not too problematic to be on the package. Now, the last kind of thing that could be an issue on a label is when it encourages people to violate the halacha. So a simple example is what happens when food is sold as bacon. Bacon is, of course, not kosher. So depending on how the label describes it, the fact that, bacon, which is something called bacon, which is kosher, might mislead people to think that it has real bacon in it and that somehow that's permitted. A different kind of problem is when the instructions, the package instructions themselves tell you to do something which you're not allowed to do. For example, let's say you have a chicken seasoning that has dairy in it, or you have a steak sauce that has fish in it. So you're not allowed to add milk into chicken, and you're not allowed to add fish into meat. So the package is basically telling you to do something that you're not allowed to do. So the hashgacha has to decide, does their presence on the package mean they support you using this as per the package's directions itself, or do they think that the consumers are going to realize that, oh no, it says that's what it says in the instructions, but I'm not supposed to use it that way. Okay, and last is that there's an issur to make or eat bread that has milk in it, or meat for that matter. So what happens if I have a bread mix that contains dairy ingredients? Should we not give hashgacha to that? Will consumers realize that they're not allowed to use this to actually make bread? They have to use it for something else, that not a bread type item. This one is even more sensitive than the previous ones because a lot of people don't even realize that you're not allowed to make that. There's an issur to make dairy bread, even if you eat it as milchig, you're not allowed to make dairy bread. So the hashgacha has to think about, wait a second, if we leave this as the instructions, it's a dairy bread mix, people are just going to follow, will they follow the instructions? So hashgachas take different positions on this issue. But again, this is a type of a, so to speak, packaging issue. There's nothing per se about the package, the actual cardboard or plastic that causes a pashtus concern. But the hashgacha, they're saying this is a kosher product. They have to think about whether they're presenting something that in fact is suited for kosher consumers.